6 trillion. Every single year. That's not a number you can really picture, but the moment you step inside one of these factories, it stops feeling abstract. The machines never pause. The conveyor never stops. And somewhere on this floor right now, 20,000 cigarettes are being made every single minute. You clicked on this video because you wanted to know how something this massive actually works. Stay with us, because what you're about to see is exactly that, and it's going to surprise you. Cigarettes are one of the most produced manufactured products in human history, and yet most people have never once thought about what actually goes into making them, from a tiny seed planted in the ground, all the way to a sealed pack sitting on a store shelf. That's exactly what we're covering today. The full process. Every stage, nothing skipped. Coming up, we're going inside one of the largest cigarette factories in the world. But there's one specific stage in this operation that completely changed how this industry scaled to 6 trillion a year. We'll get there. Let's start from the very beginning. Let's put that number into perspective one more time. 6 trillion cigarettes a year. Divided by 365 days, that's over 16 billion produced every single day. Divided by 24 hours, that's more than 600 million every hour. The math gets uncomfortable fast. And what makes it even harder to wrap your head around is where this whole thing starts. Not in a factory, not in a machine, in a field. The state of North Carolina has been the heart of American tobacco farming for centuries. And every spring, long before any factory line runs, workers are already inside greenhouse nurseries, filling trays with soil, feeding them through automated seeding machines that distribute seeds with precision across every single tray. These seeds are tiny, almost impossibly small for something that launches an industry of this scale. But inside each one is the beginning of a tobacco plant that, if everything goes right, will eventually become part of thousands of finished cigarettes. After 7 weeks in the nursery, carefully controlled temperature, light, water, the seedlings are strong enough to leave the greenhouse. Transplanting machines carry them out into the open fields, planting each seedling into the soil at a consistent depth and spacing. From here, the plants get daily care, and they grow fast. By midsummer, something interesting happens. The tobacco plants begin to flower. And that sounds like a natural, harmless part of the growth cycle. But for a tobacco farmer, flowers are a problem. When a tobacco plant flowers, it shifts its energy. Instead of pushing nutrients into the leaves, which is where the value is, it starts directing resources toward the flower and seed production. The leaves stop developing. Quality drops. So farmers make a calculated move. They drive cutting machines across the fields, specifically to remove the tops of the plants, cutting off every flower before it can take hold. At the same time, growth inhibitors get sprayed across the crop to prevent the plant from trying to reflower. It sounds almost counterintuitive. Cutting a plant to make it grow better. But this single decision, the topping, is what maximizes the concentration of everything that makes tobacco leaves valuable. The plant has nowhere to send its energy except the leaves. And those leaves respond. Within weeks, the fields change color. Green gives way to a deep, rich yellow, and that color shift is the signal every farmer is waiting for. Yellow leaves mean the crop is ready. Harvest time. Harvesting at this scale isn't done by hand. Digging machines move through the rows, reaching deep into the soil, lifting the plants at the root and transferring them directly into large bins on waiting trucks. The pace is steady and deliberate because weather is never guaranteed, and a crop left in the field past its window starts losing quality fast. Once the bins are full, everything moves to the warehouse. And this is where the process enters a phase that most people never think about, and that turns out to be one of the most important steps in the entire journey. Drying. Fresh tobacco leaves carry significant moisture. Too much to process, too much to blend, too much to run through any manufacturing machine. Before these leaves can become anything useful, that moisture has to come out slowly, controlled, and completely. In the drying warehouses, wood burns under the floor, generating steady heat that rises through the structure and surrounds the hanging leaves. The temperature is managed carefully. Too hot, and the leaves become brittle and lose their character. Too cool, and the drying takes longer than it should. creating risk for mold and uneven results. This process runs for 5 to 8 weeks. In an industry defined by machines that produce 20,000 units per minute, 5 to 8 weeks of slow, patient drying feels like a completely different world. But it can't be shortened. The leaves will dry on their own timeline, and the factory waits. When they're finally ready, the dried leaves get pressed into compact square bundles and shipped to the processing plant. And that's where the pace changes completely. The moment raw tobacco arrives at the processing facility, the relaxed rhythm of the farm disappears. This is a different environment, entirely loud, precise, fast-moving, and running continuously. The first step is sorting. Every batch of incoming leaves gets evaluated and separated by size, type, and quality. This matters more than it might seem. Different leaf types carry different flavor profiles, different nicotine levels, different burn characteristics. Mixing them without sorting first produces an inconsistent product, and consistency is everything in this industry. A smoker who buys the same brand expects the same experience every single time. That expectation starts right here in the sorting room. After sorting, leaves that are overly dry get lightly steamed or moistened just enough to make them pliable and workable without adding too much moisture back into the material. It's a careful balance. Then, they move into the stripping machines. The machines on the cigarette production floor are among the fastest consumer product manufacturing systems ever built. A single high-speed cigarette-making machine can produce up to 20,000 cigarettes per minute. Let that sit for a second. 20,000 per minute from one machine. The process starts with paper. An enormous roll of cigarette paper up to 7 kilometers long feeds continuously into the machine. A precise measured stream of blended tobacco gets laid along the paper in a continuous line. The paper then wraps around the tobacco automatically, forming a long continuous rod, perfectly consistent in diameter and density, from one end to the other. That rod moves forward and gets cut into individual cigarette lengths at high speed. Each cut produces a cigarette body tobacco packed inside paper, uniform in every dimension. But it still needs a filter. Filters are produced on a parallel system and fed into the assembly stage continuously. Each cigarette body receives a filter at one end, and the two components get joined together by tipping paper, a thin paper wrap that covers the filter and a small section of the cigarette body, holding everything in place. The tipping paper is also where the perforations are, those tiny holes around the filter that affect airflow and draw resistance. Their placement, size, and pattern are all engineered precisely to deliver a consistent smoking experience. Even this detail is intentional. As the finished cigarettes come off the line, quality control systems are running simultaneously. Automated sensors check density, length, filter attachment, and draw resistance on every single cigarette passing through. Any cigarette that falls outside spec gets rejected, instantly pulled from the line before it ever reaches packaging. Defective product doesn't leave this floor. What passes inspection moves directly into the packaging system. Individual cigarettes get arranged into groups and wrapped in foil, a layer that preserves freshness and protects the tobacco from moisture and air. Then the familiar cardboard pack assembles around them, the flip-top lid closes, and a tight outer wrap of protective film seals everything in. That film isn't just cosmetic. It locks in the aroma and keeps the pack intact through shipping, handling, and storage. Completed packs move into carton assembly, 10 packs per carton, and those cartons get sealed and stacked for transport. The speed of this packaging line matches the speed of the manufacturing line upstream. Nothing waits, nothing backs up. The whole system runs as one continuous, synchronized operation. And somewhere at the end of that line, a finished pack of cigarettes exists that started as a seed in a greenhouse in North Carolina. It went through 7 weeks of nursery growth, months in the field, weeks of slow drying, and then a processing and manufacturing journey running at a speed most people can't fully picture. 6 trillion times a year, this cycle completes. Here's what's worth sitting with for a moment. Every single stage of this process, the farming, the drying, the blending, the manufacturing, was engineered with one goal: consistency. Making sure that every cigarette feels, burns, and tastes identical to the last one. Because the moment a product becomes predictable, it becomes something people reach for without thinking. That's not an accident. That's a design decision. Built into every machine, every blend, every perfectly sealed pack. 6 trillion a year isn't just a production number. It's a measurement of how effectively a system can be built around human habit. Understanding that process, really understanding it, changes how you see the product entirely. And on that note, cigarette smoking carries serious health risks, including cancer, heart disease, and lung damage. This video is strictly educational. If you currently smoke, please consider speaking with a healthcare professional about your options. If this kind of deep industrial storytelling is what you're here for, hit like, subscribe, and stay close. Because what's coming next on this channel is built for exactly the kind of person who watches a video like this all the way to the end. Drop a comment below and tell us which factory or process you want us to cover next. Your suggestion might just become our next video. See you inside the next one.